In the last lesson, we learned about chord tones and non-chord tones. In this lesson, we are going to begin learning about the different categories of non-chord tones. We will start with the passing tone. Passing tones are a type of non-chord tone and are used to pass between chord tones. There are, however, a few criteria that have to be met in order for a tone to be classified as a passing tone. Let's look at each in turn. 1. A passing tone must be between two chord tones. It is important to note that the two chords need not be the same chord. For example, the first chord could be G and the second chord could be C. 2. A passing tone must move in stepwise motion. It may move by seconds, but not by thirds or any larger interval. 3. A passing tone must move in a continuous direction away from and to the next chord tone. If the passing tone is a second higher than the preceding chord tone, then it must continue moving another second higher to reach the next chord tone. If the passing tone is a second lower than the preceding chord tone, then it must continue moving another second lower to reach the next chord tone. In the following example, the notes marked with red arrows are the passing tones. The chord in the left hand is an A minor chord, and so we know that the pitches A, C, and E in the melody are the chord tones. The B's and D's are therefore non-chord tones. But what type of non-chord tone are they? They are passing tones because they meet the three criteria above. Let's go over each one in turn. The first passing tone. The first three notes are A, B, and C. B is the passing tone because it is between the chord tones A and C. It also moves in a stepwise and continuous motion upwards. The second passing tone. The third, fourth, and fifth notes are C, B, and A. B is the passing tone because it is between the chord tones C and A. It also moves in a stepwise and continuous downward motion. The third passing tone. The first three notes in the second measure are A, B, and C. B is the passing tone because it is between the chord tones A and C. It also moves in a stepwise and continuous motion upward. The fourth passing tone. The last three notes in the second measure are C, D, and E. D is the passing tone because it is between the chord tones C and E. They also move in a stepwise and continuous motion upwards. It's important to note that there is such a thing as a double passing tone. Criteria number 1 is ignored, and instead of one non-chord tone between the chord tones, there are two. The chord is a D minor chord, D, F, A. Therefore, A is a chord tone, and D is a chord tone. The notes B and C sharp do not belong to the chord and are therefore non-chord tones. We classify them as passing tones because they fall between two chord tones and because they move in a stepwise and continuous motion. The next thing we need to learn about passing tones is that they can be either accented or non-accented. All of the previous examples have been examples of non-accented passing tones because they did not fall on any accented beats. If you recall from basic music theory, the accented beats are the strong beats in that particular meter. Let's look at an example of an accented passing tone. The chords in the left hand are C major chords. The right-hand melody is made up primarily of the chord tones C, E, and G. D is the passing tone between chord tones E and C, moving in a continuous stepwise motion downwards. But since D falls on an accented beat, beat 1, it is therefore called an accented passing tone.